Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Philo Hoyane. The cross-examination of Absalom Zungu just went on as I had predicted this morning. I have always been of the view that Baloyi would have absolutely no cross-examination or any meaningful cross-examination of Absalom Zungu. So at the end of the day, Baloyi simply resorted to getting Zungu to admit that his affidavit or the contents of that affidavit are simply hearsay because Absalom Zungu had no personal knowledge of the circumstances around or the circumstances surrounding the death of Senzo MEYIWA. Of course, that was to be expected. This evidence, this forgery, this affidavit which was forged, Baloyi omits conveniently to tell the court that this forgery was put before the Pretoria High Court by the prosecution in the first place. Now, when he cross-examines Absalom Zungu about the contents therein, and as to whether Absalom Zungu has got personal knowledge of the contents of that forgery concocted by Gininda, of course Absalom Zungu will say, I have no personal knowledge of the circumstances surrounding the death of Senzo MEYIWA. Because you remember, this is triple hearsay from Begiseni Zungu to Absalom Zungu, then to Constable Zungu. That is not the issue here. That is not the issue. And Absalom Zungu is before the Pretoria High Court not to contest whether or not that affidavit contains matters which can be characterized as hearsay. That is not what he's there for. He is primarily there to inform the court that this so-called affidavit allegedly deposed to by myself, exhibit UU before the Pretoria High Court, is a forgery. And nobody wants to go in that direction. So this is why you find that the cross-examination of Baloyi does not go into whether Absalom Zungu in fact made that affidavit and whether the contents of that affidavit are true, as purportedly attested to by him. He leaves this forgery, and conveniently so, because he knows that the forgery has been concocted by Brigadier Gininda and wants now to divert the attention of everybody from the forgery itself to the fact that Absalom Zungu or that affidavit contains hearsay evidence, which the court will then dismiss as triple hearsay evidence. But that is not what the issue is all about. The issue which the Pretoria High Court must address is not whether or not the contents of that affidavit are hearsay evidence or not. Of course, we all know they are hearsay evidence. But it was the same triple hearsay evidence that was brought before the Pretoria High Court by the prosecution with the hope and you all know this, with the hope that perhaps Absalom Zungu would not be testifying the way he's testifying. You see, the plan has always, by Baloyi, has always been that at a later stage, Absalom Zungu would then come forward to vouch for the contents of that forged affidavit. Now, when they realized that Absalom Zungu is here now as a defense witness, because remember, they wanted to make him a prosecution witness, and Absalom Zungu categorically told them that I will have nothing to do with any affidavit intended by you people to falsely implicate Muzi Sibiya and Bongani Ntanzi in the killing of Senzo MEYIWA. After he had refused to do that, they are now simply saying, oh, well, that the contents of that affidavit allegedly attributed to him are not important for consideration by the court because they are hearsay evidence. That is disingenuous on the part of Advocate Baloyi, because that is not the issue that brought Absalom Zungu before the Pretoria High Court. And the court itself does not seem to be taking the position, regarding how that forged affidavit in the first place came to be labeled Exhibit UU before the court. The court is not going in that direction. So this forgery, is just being conveniently disregarded now because it is now being characterized simply as triple hearsay evidence, which is inadmissible. But before it becomes triple hearsay evidence, it was a forged affidavit. It was forged triple hearsay evidence to have brought that affidavit before the Pretoria High Court. So this is why I said in the earlier edition of the Daily Fix that Baloyi will have nothing to cross-examine Absalom Zungu about the veracity of the contents of the affidavit. Because for the whole week, Absalom Zungu has been telling the Pretoria High Court that that so-called affidavit allegedly, deposed to by me, is not worth the paper that it is written on. So Baloyi conveniently now, having realized the position that Absalom Zungu has taken vis-a-vis that forged affidavit, then seeks to rely on the fact that, well, he simply just wants to overlook or get us to overlook the fact that it was a forgery and simply focus on the fact that it is hearsay evidence. So that the court can then agree with him and say, oh, well, we don't have to bother ourselves with the testimony of Absalom Zungu because Absalom Zungu's evidence is mere hearsay, which no court will take into account, let alone if it is now, it is even exposed as triple hearsay. This is how I am saying the prosecution is being disingenuous here. And this fools nobody except those who want to be fooled by Baloyi. Because Absalom Zungu will agree that he does not know anything or does not have any personal knowledge around the circumstances of how Senzo MEYIWA died. He is simply saying, my name is being bandied about. I am here because my name is being bandied about. That is why he held that explosive press conference. and ended up opening up a case in the Newcastle police station. My name, he says, Absalom Zungu says, is being bandied about. This is why I'm here, to come and clear up my name. To say to the court that I've got nothing to do with that affidavit, which is a manifest forgery. So this kind of, this line of cross-examination by Baloyi convinces nobody unless you want to believe the sort of things that Advocate Baloyi is putting before that court. They must get into the circumstances surrounding the making of that forgery and not run away from that. Only then will the cross-examination of Absalom Zungu make any sense to anybody. As it is, they are just simply beating a dead horse. But unfortunately, the court seems to agree with the position that they've taken, that, oh, well, this is hearsay evidence and need not be taken any further. Because Judge Ratamukwateng has actually said on Friday that, yes, the court knows about this evidence and has always regarded it as inadmissible triple hearsay evidence. So, what a way, or what a manner this trial is proceeding in. But having said that, let me thank you for watching this video. Let me thank you for all the views, subscriptions, and shares and likes that I'm seeing. And have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon and evening. Thank you.